Hello, this is Dr. J here with Darkness Never Dies. This is a old school retro first-person dungeon crawler made by me. For this LP, I'm basically doing a walkthrough slash demonstration of this game I've created. Now, this is not the full game. This is just a demo that kind of drops you into the middle game. I chose that because I wanted to show off what a mid-level party looks like instead of starting you off with a first-level party, because this demonstrates more of the features and so on. However, starting the player off in sort of a mid-level party in the middle of the game does have the effect of not easing the player into the game mechanics and so on. So part of the reason that I wanted to create this video, aside from just showing off the game, is to demonstrate how to play the game, explain the different mechanics and features, and all that sort of thing. Alright, so that's enough of an introduction. Let's go ahead and just dive into it and let the game speak for itself. We'll start with the intro. The kingdom of Vantia is in turmoil. Its guardian deity, the dragon god Arnalor, and the royal family have been slain. The culprit is the dark goddess Xandria, as manifested through her avatar, the high priestess Kasaria. With Kasaria now seated on the throne, enacting her goddess's will, the cult of Xandria has sunk its tendrils deep into Vantian society. In this dark time, those who refuse to bend the knee to Xandria are forced to flee into the monster-infested hinterlands to escape torture and death. Yet hidden deep within the ancient ruins scattered in the wilderness may lie the key to overthrowing the dark goddess. And, perhaps, a forbidden truth to upend the very fabric of this world's reality. Alright, so as it explains, this is a demo. In the full game, you would start by creating your own first-level party. However, for the demo, you are given a pre-generated 6th-level party with a single dungeon to explore. In-game tutorials are available, so if you have the patience to read through them, these tutorials explain most of what there is to know about how to play the game, and some of them come with useful graphics and screenshots to further illustrate the various concepts. However, I understand that reading through all the tutorials is probably be regarded as boring by most people, and so that's part of the reason that I'm creating this video demo slash walkthrough. Okay, so here's what the game proper looks like. Now, we can see that we have 4 characters: Grumble, Kiyomi, Cecily, and Arendorf. This actually shows the party's formation. So the 2 characters in the front are literally in the front of the party, which means they can make melee attacks, and enemy melee attacks will focus on these 2. The 2 characters in the back, likewise, are literally in the back, so they cannot make melee attacks, and enemy melee fighters cannot target them unless the front line falls first. You can see each character's hit points underneath their name, and you can see these numbers here at the bottom of the character portrait. In the case of the 2 characters in the back, Cecily and Arendorf, these show how many spells they have available to cast of 1st, 2nd, and 3rd tier. So for example, Cecily has 4 spells of the 1st tier, 3 of the 2nd tier, and 2 of the 3rd tier. Arendorf has 5, 3, and 2. Anyone familiar with Dungeons & Dragons will note that this game does take a lot of inspiration for its mechanics from Dungeons & Dragons, especially older editions of the game, although it has quite a few of its own original ideas as well. Now, for Grumble and Kiyomi, these numbers actually indicate how many special martial exploits they can execute, where the first number indicates how many encounter exploits they can execute, which is to say this number resets every time you get in a new fight. And the second number indicates how many daily exploits they can execute. These do not refresh until you complete a rest at a designated rest location. In the case of spells, all spells only come back when you take a rest. They do not come back after every battle. At the bottom of each character card, underneath the hit points, these icons correspond to abilities that have been hotkeyed to that character, where the first ability corresponds to the key 1, the second ability to the numerical key 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Abilities that are grayed out cannot currently be used. And sometimes they can't be used even if they're not grayed out. For example, you can't swing your weapon outside of battle. So even though I'm hitting 1 or clicking on this icon, nothing's happening because it doesn't mean anything or make any sense for Grumble to use his axe when we're not in a fight. Now, there are actually more abilities than this. These are just the ones that have been hotkeyed. So if you hit escape to bring up the menu and go to abilities, you can select the different abilities, which are hotkeyed, and you can see all of the abilities that the character has in this little panel in the lower right. You can see that in the case of the spellcasters, they have a lot more spells that have been mapped to their hotkeys. So the hotkeys are just so that you can access them instantly. But if you need to access abilities that haven't been hotkeyed, you can go into the menu, and you can also rearrange which abilities are assigned to the hotkeys here. So for example, I could go to Cecily, select Cure, and perhaps I want to assign Torch in place of Cure. If I do that, first I click Cure in her hotkeys, then I click Torch over here in her available abilities, and I click Assign. And we can see the Cure has been overwritten with Torch. And as you probably noticed, a description of the ability is given here in the upper right corner of the screen, whichever ability you have selected. So Torch, it says it is a Tier 0 arcane spell. Tier 0 means that you can cast it endlessly, unlike, for instance, a Tier 1 ability such as Light, which would subtract from the number of Tier 1 spells that Cecily has available to cast. Tier 0 spells you can just cast endlessly. And it explains that this is a fire attack versus the enemy's evasion, that it does 1d6 plus mage damage. What the mage means is that it adds whatever Cecily, not Kiyomi. I may have been misspeaking her name there for a while. If so, apologies. Magic means whatever Cecily's magic stat is, which in her case is her intuition, the modifier for that is going to get added to the damage that she does. The D in 1d6 stands for die. It means you roll one 6-sided die. So that would generate a random number from 1 to 6, and then add her magic stats modifier to determine how much damage she does. And versus evasion means it targets the enemy's evasion stat. It also says that the damage increases to 1d8 when she hits 6th level. She is 6th level, which means that it actually currently does 1d8 plus mage damage, her torch ability. Now, I'm not going to go through every single ability like this because that would take forever and be boring. But that just explains how you can read these to get an understanding of what they do. Okay, so that's enough explanation for the time being. We'll get into more as we continue playing, but for now, let's step a little further into the dungeon. We must be getting close to the bottom of this pit by now. We've shed a lot of blood getting this far. It better have been worth it. I'm still not convinced that Phantom isn't leading us on a wild goose chase. She hasn't led us wrong so far, has she? Have more faith, Grumble. Speak of the devil. You have overcome many trials to get this far. It is intentional that some of this individual's dialogue is dotted out to indicate that her speaking is not clear. However, I'm not going to try to voice act that because that would be really hard to do. I am grateful for your faith and perseverance. The object of your search is close now. I can feel it. How will we know when we've found it? I will recognize it when I see it. Please do not tarry. Find that which something Truth will be laid bare to you. Of course, as the creator, I know what this says, but it has, been intentionally dotted out. So I'll leave it for you to try to discern exactly what it is that that's supposed to say. Truth will be laid bare has an ominous ring to it. You're not wrong, Grumble. Ofttimes those who seek truth come to regret it. Yet those with the courage to accept a hard reality may find wisdom on the other side. Wisdom or regret? I wonder which this phantom is leading us towards. There's only one way to find out, and it's not by standing here. Whatever she's guiding us to, it can't be worse than that disgusting Xandria and her cultists. I hope you're right. Alright, and then control is returned. Now that the opening cutscene there is complete. Wrong voice, that was Grumble. My light spell should make short work of the dark zones ahead of us. I originally didn't have that bit of dialogue, but I added it in response to playtester feedback where they indicated that the dark zones and how to get rid of them was a source of confusion. And then it adds the note here, further explaining that. So I'm going to go into abilities, select Arendorf, go to the light spell, which isn't mapped to his hotkeys, and I'm going to go ahead and cast it. And you can see that those dark zones, which we were previously unable to see through, have now been dispelled, and we can see through them. By the way, some people have asked if I did all the artwork for this game. The answer is yes. So, in addition to programming it and writing, I also drew the artwork. Only mentioning that because people have asked. Alright, and another note that I added in response to playtester feedback. Note, in the southeast corner of this room, you'll find a small chamber that contains the save and rest points. Note that you can only make permanent saves at this save point, and that the rest point is the only location where you can fully heal your party, regain spent spells, and revive KO'd characters. So manage your resources carefully, because you'll have to return to this point to recover your party. So if we hit the M key, that is the hotkey for bringing up the map, we can see that southeast would be over to our right. You can also access the map by bringing up the escape menu and clicking view map. It does the same thing. So, if I go over here, this is where the save and rest points are. We can see that there's some strange imagery here. What does imagery mean? I'm sure it means something. In fact, I know what it means. But, again, I'm going to leave that mystery for you viewers and hopefully future players. So this is where we can rest our party, but there's no need to do that right now. And here's where we can save. So I'll open the save menu, and I'll go ahead and create a save in slot 1 here. Escape out. Okay. So, the unstated goal of this demo is to try to get through that door that we can see ahead of us. So if I go up to this door, it says press spacebar to examine the door, but the door is firmly sealed. No apparent lock or opening mechanism is evident. So what we have to do, you can see there's 2 blacked out crystals to either side of the door. We need to activate those crystals, which will cause them to light up, and then we'll be able to open the door. However, there are a lot of steps involved in accomplishing that. Now, you can tackle this in a variety of different ways, but I'm going to show you what is probably the most efficient way to do this. First thing we're going to want to do, this room here is kind of a central hub, and you can see that there are doors leading in every which way direction. Here to the west, here to the east, that door to the north that we can't get through yet, and the door to the south, which is the one we came through. Also, there's this strange machinery in the floor. So if we examine that, it says, a floor tile is missing here, exposing some ancient machinery. It appears to be missing a part. So one of the things we're going to need to do is find the part that goes into that part of the floor. So the first place that we're going to go is to the east here, through the eastern door. Now, our goal is actually in this direction, but I'm going to take a detour this way first. Oh, and we get into our first fight. This is a minor, I guess you could say, quote-unquote, bug in the demo. It says you encounter 2 drakes, but that's wrong. There's only 1 drake here in this encounter. Yeah, I'll probably fix that eventually, if I remember. Not exactly a critical bug. Alright, so, in combat, you can hit tab to select your different characters when it's your turn. You can use the numeric keys to use your character's abilities, or you can click on them. The escape key will bring up the list of abilities so that you can remap those for your characters in the middle of the battle if you need to. So, this Drake can be a nasty customer. Another thing to note is that red abilities like this for martial characters indicate that they're daily abilities. So they will subtract from the second number here, and I won't be able to use them again once this hits 0 until I take a rest. So you want to be conservative with those. Yellow abilities like Kiyomi's Twin Strike are encounter-based. So they will use up the first number and they'll reset at the beginning of every fight. Alright, so there's no reason not to unload with Kiyomi's Twin Strike a lot. And we can see that that did some good damage to the Drake here, hitting it 3 times. And I should have done this ahead of time, but I'm going to go ahead and have Cecily summon her Beast. What the Beast does is it makes an extra attack every round. So it's just some extra persistent damage output. For Arendorf, I'm going to have him use Pulse, which is a surefire hit spell. It never misses. The damage is not super high, but the fact that it never misses makes it pretty valuable. And then I'm going to go ahead and have Grumble use his Power Strike, which does more damage but is less accurate. So I'm going to just hope that I get lucky and hit and get the extra damage. I got unlucky and missed. Okay, so that attack just there was Cecily's Beast attacking. We saw that the Drake hit Kiyomi for 5 points of damage. Not a big deal, she can take that. Let's have Grumble try one more power attack. Okay, that time he hit for a solid 12 damage. And Kiyomi finishes it off with her Twin Strike. And obviously you can see that the message log here records a bunch of messages. It only goes back up to 100 entries, so it doesn't show everything. Alright, so that showed off the battle system a bit. And now, the reason I took this detour is because I want to go through this door. Alright, so Kiyomi just found a trap. She can find traps, well, any character can potentially find traps, but Kiyomi is going to be the best at it because of her class. She's a ranger, and rangers are one of the classes good at finding traps. When she finds a trap, and she won't always because she's not perfect at it, then it's represented by this spinning red plane. And in order to try to disarm it, I have to step into it, which means you have to risk setting it off in order to disarm it. And there's no other way to get at this chest other than stepping into the trap. So Kiyomi is pretty good at disarming traps, but she's not perfect at that either, so there is a risk that she could set it off. But she disarmed it safely, so we're good. Now we can open the treasure chest, and we can see that there is a fireball rune here. Runes are how you learn new spells. It says this is a tier 3 arcane rune that bestows the fireball spell to the one in whose essence it is embedded. So I'm going to take it. There's nothing else to get in the chest. Grumble says, how much do you think it's worth? You'll see that the characters have a lot of random chatting as the game progresses. I added that so that even in the full game where you can create your own party, you pick a personality for your characters and that determines what kind of dialogue they come up with when they're chatting in response to various events. I did that so that your characters feel like they actually have some life and personality and aren't just soulless stat blocks, which often happens in games where you can create your own characters. I wanted to avoid that for this one. Okay, so now that we have a fireball rune, I'm going to go into the inventory menu, and we can get a little bit of an introduction to this. So in the upper right, here we can scroll through our characters by clicking these buttons. And to the right of the character, you see what they have equipped. The top 2 icons are what they're holding in their hands. So Grumble is holding a Great Axe +1, which is a 2-handed weapon. So it's taking up both of his hand slots. Kiyomi is holding a longsword +1 in one hand and a guard dagger in her other hand. That's why she can use dual wielding techniques. Cecily has a short bow, which is 2-handed, and Arendorf has a staff, which is 2-handed. If you want to be more defensive, you can also equip a one-handed weapon and a shield. That is also an option. Although we don't have any shields in our inventory right now. The slot in the lower left is for your armor. Grumble is wearing full plate +1, so he's pretty decked out. That's very good armor. We can see here it says it increases his armor factor, that's what AF stands for, by 7. And that you have to have a strength of 12 or better in order to equip full plate. Kiyomi is wearing mail +1. Cecily has on an ether mantle, as does Arendorf. In the lower right corner is the accessory the character is wearing, if any. Right now, the only character with an accessory is Cecily. She is wearing a Circlet of Life, which gives her immunity to sudden death attacks. And some items are consumables instead of permanent equipment, such as this green medicine, which restores hit points. 3d8 +6. 3d8 would mean rolling 3 8-sided dice, which would give you a value from 3 to 24, +6, which would increase it by 6, so from 9 to 33. But because it is, virtually speaking, rolling 3 8-sided dice, instead of being a flat range where the chances of getting 3 or 24 are the same as the chances of getting, say, 16, because it's 3 dice, it actually creates a bell curve in terms of the probability, so that numbers in the middle are more likely to be generated than numbers at the edges. If that didn't make too much sense to you, don't worry about it right now. And just know that you restore from 9 to 33 hit points when you use green medicine. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to select the Flashfire Scroll, which targets all front row enemies and does 1d6 plus magic stat plus the character's level up to a maximum of +10 to all enemies on the front row. And it does half damage even if it misses, targeting their evasion. So I'm going to select Kiyomi's free slot here, but I'm going to assign the Flashfire Scroll to that. We can see that we have 3 Flashfire Scrolls in inventory. So now that I've assigned that to Kiyomi's hotkeys, up to 3 times I'm going to be able to have her use these Flashfire Scrolls. And then since we have 3 of them in inventory, once we've used them all up, she won't be able to use any more. Now, the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to select the Fireball rune, and I'm going to teach Cecily the Fireball spell. The reason I'm going to give it to Cecily and not Arendorf is because Arendorf already knows a good 3rd tier attack spell, which is Bolt. And so it feels a little pointless to give him both of the good tier 3 attack spells. So I'm going to spread it out so that Cecily has a good one too. So I just click use, and then it gives me a target. So I'm going to target Cecily. And it says Cecily has learned the ability Fireball. Now I'm going to go into abilities, and I'm going to overwrite Beast with the new Fireball spell that we just learned. So I'm going to click Assign. Now, Fireball is assigned to Cecily's hotkeys. Alright, so that's why I wanted to take this little detour here. Now I'm going to continue on my way to actually making progress toward completing my objective. Oh, we have encountered an enemy Dark Sorcerer. Now these guys have some pretty nasty spells of their own, but they're relatively low on hit points. They're basically glass cannons, so I'm going to try my best to kill this guy quick. And I one-shotted him with a power attack from Grumble. So that went great. As long as you can kill them quick, they're nothing. But if you let them get a turn, they can cast a powerful spell to really mess up your party. So I've come here, and I'm going to go down this tunnel, which will take me to another level. And as soon as I reach the lower level, I'm ambushed by a group of mantids. Now these guys are in 3 separate rows. These 2 are in the first row, this guy's in the second, this guy's in the third. Which means they're in a great formation for me to hit them with the Bolt spell, which attacks in a line. So Bolt targets 1 enemy from each row. So it's going to hit 3 out of the 4 of them. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. Alright, so that was fantastic. I did solid damage to 3 of the enemies. And now I'm going to go ahead and have Grumble use a power attack. Good, that finished off one of them. I'll have Kiyomi use Twin Strike. Finished off another. This is going well. Cecily will go ahead and just use Glint, which is a tier 0 spell, so nothing powerful this time. Okay, so 2 of them still alive. Next up, I will use another power attack. Then another Twin Strike from Kiyomi. No reason not to use them as long as she has them available, because they recharge every fight. And we win. Okay, so they didn't hurt us too much because we used effective abilities and took them out quickly. Now, I want to go to the south. So I've gone to here, came down here and have gone to this place. And I want to go through this door here, where we get into another fixed encounter with a Mantid champion. He's the red one in the middle, and his 2 flunkies to either side. Now these guys can be pretty tough because they can accelerate themselves and get tons of attacks, which can be pretty deadly. So I'm going to unload some powerful abilities here. I'm going to go ahead and have Kiyomi use a Flashfire Scroll. And I'm even going to have Cecily use a Fireball here. I want to take these guys out quick. Oops. I think I hit the wrong key and had Grumble use Vigor, which is not what I wanted to do. So that was entirely a mistake on my part. Oh well. Let's go ahead and have Cecily use Fireball for real now. Alright, that's 1 down. Arendorf will use Pulse. Alright, we took out the Mantid champion before he was able to do anything, and then the Beast finished off the last of the enemies. Alright, that was good. Now Cecily, she's a pretty versatile character because we see that she can learn good damaging spells, she can summon this Beast. She's also the party healer. So Grumble, as we can see, is a bit hurt, so I'm going to have her heal him using Medica 1. Alright, and 44 hit points is pretty good, so we'll leave it there. The downside of Cecily's versatility is it means there's a lot of demand on her spell points here, because we have her attacking, we have her healing. She's going to be going through these spells quite a bit. Alright, now, from this chest, we can get this cog. It says, apart from an ancient machine, although rusty it is otherwise intact, it might still be usable. Have we seen anywhere that a cog might be useful? Let's keep that in mind. We're not done down here, not by a long shot. Now I'm going to head to the west. Alright, this door is my next destination. And here we get attacked by another Mantid champion and his flunkies. So, once again, I'm going to have Kiyomi use a Flashfire Scroll. Unfortunately, Cecily's out of 3rd tier spell slots, so she's not going to be able to use a Fireball. However, I'm going to have Grumble use Cleave, which is sort of an area of effect attack he's got. Alright, now note that he is out of daily martial abilities. That's now 0, so we're going to have to rest before he can use any more. Vigor was one of them, I used that by accident, and then Cleave was another. Okay. Arendorf will use Pulse. And then we'll have Cecily... I'm actually going to have her cast Vine to try to immobilize these guys, which is going to make them easier to hit. You can see a little Vine icon has... Okay. So that was actually unnecessary, because the Beast finished them off. Okay, one of them dropped a longsword. I'm actually not going to bother taking that because my characters have better weapons. But we could take it if we really wanted to. Now this treasure chest has an Ether Gem, a perfectly refined crystal lattice used for channeling ether. Alright, so we'll go ahead and take that. Maybe we'll find a use for it later. And there's one more thing that we want to get down here for now. So we're going to go west again. Okay, this is a mustard gel. The nasty thing about mustard gels is when you hit them in melee, they will splash acid on you. So you want to try to take them out from range if possible. So I'm going to have Cecily use Glint on it. And then Arendorf will go ahead and use, if I remember right, I think lightning actually heals them. And so I'm going to have him use Frost instead to do ice damage. Actually, you know what? I'll save Pulse. He's running low on first level spell slots. So Frost. Unfortunately, it's not dead, so one of our frontliners is going to have to take some damage finishing it off. Okay. So Grumble finished it. He took 4 damage from its Acid Splash. Not too bad. Oh, that is a lot of enemies. Okay. So, this is such a large group, it calls for some powerful attacks. So Arendorf is going to go ahead and use his last 3rd level slot to cast Bolt. And then Kiyomi is going to use her last Flash Fire Scroll. A sweep from Grumble. Alright, this is going well. We've really thinned their numbers. And a glint from Cecily. Now we'll just finish them off with standard attacks. Okay, the Manta just threw a Shuriken, which as we saw can affect multiple targets, so it's a dangerous weapon. Alright. I'll go ahead and have Cecily toss another heal on Grumble. He's taken quite a few hits. Alright, that was a pretty good heal. Alright, so we've made it basically as far west as we can go. We have one more door we want to go through here. Fortunately, this one isn't guarded by a Mantid champion. Another cog, so we're going to take that. Now, we are done down in this lower level for now, so we're going to go back to the east. Now we want to return to the first level. Notice that even though I'm the creator and designer of this game, I still check the map fairly frequently. So don't have any shame in referring to the map quite a bit. It's very labyrinthine down here. So we go back up. And now we're going to return to the rest location. Oh, 2 mustard gels. Since we're going to rest shortly anyway, there's no reason not to just use up all of our best stuff. We're about to get it all back. So I'll go ahead and have Arendorf draw a Pulse. Cecily, let's see. Since she can't do another Fireball, I guess she'll just do a Glint. Alright, and then a Sweep from Grumble. Probably should have had him do a Power Attack instead. That was probably not a great decision. And then from Kiyomi, a Twin Strike. Okay. Frost. Glint. Twin Strike. Now, just in case we get unlucky and get attacked again in the few steps left to the rest point, I'll have Cecily throw out another couple of heals. Alright, Kiyomi's looking much better. So we reach the rest point. And our party is fully recovered. That also causes any persistent spells to go away. So we lost our beast, we lost our light. So you can't cheese the game by casting a persistent spell and then resting immediately, because the persistent stuff goes away anyhow. We'll go ahead and save our progress so far. Alright, and that's going to do it for the opening video of the walkthrough to the Darkness Never Dies demo. Now that we went downstairs and collected all the items that we need immediately, we can go ahead and start using those up here on the top level. So that's what we're going to do next time. Hopefully you'll join me for that, and I'll see you then. Bye!